This time, it's all about Foothills Yamanashi's mountains. Are you ready to face the fear? When I was in the lower grades of elementary school, my uncle would be home when I returned from school. Pale and drained of life, he barely managed to greet me with a "welcome back," even when he saw my face. My uncle, a salaryman, lived at the foot of a mountain in a remote part of the Kanto region, with his wife. It was odd for him to be at our house in Tokyo during the time an elementary student would be coming home. Even as a child, I sensed something was wrong but couldn't bring myself to ask. Dinner time. My uncle, father, mother, and sister, all of us ate in silence, without exchanging a word. Suddenly, my uncle put down his chopsticks and started to speak. He told us that about a week ago, his wife complained that our dog starts barking madly at the same time every afternoon, making it awkward for us with the neighbors. My uncle brushed it off, saying, dogs have their own society, without taking it seriously. Yet, the dog's odd behavior continued, frightening his wife to the point where she started staying out around noon. Irritated by his wife's fear over something so trivial, my uncle snapped at her that morning, "I'll be home early today, so stay in the house." He left work before noon to make sure he'd be home by the time his wife mentioned, around 1 p.m. As he walked from the bus stop through the rural road surrounded by rice fields toward his house, indeed, he could hear the crazed barking of a dog. A sound that seemed both threatening and frightened. Annoyed, he sighed. From a distance, he could see his home. And something was running around in the yard. Maybe it was what the dog was barking at? A fox? A tanuki? He quickened his pace, but then, suddenly, he halted. A cold sweat broke out. What was running around in the yard was a child. A small child in traditional Japanese clothing. Rather than running, it seemed to be gliding, circling around the house endlessly. The motion of its arms was unnaturally fast, as if watching a video sped up twice its normal speed. A ghost, he thought, but being a rational man, my uncle couldn't easily accept this and strained his eyes from a distance, hoping it was something else. But it was unmistakably a child in a blue kimono. The dog was barking madly at the child. Despite knowing his wife was inside the house, my uncle felt an overwhelming reluctance to approach and ran back to the station, eventually making his way to our house. He explained. When he called home, his wife didn't answer. The very next Sunday, first thing in the morning, my dad drove my uncle back to his house. Even as a child, I felt concerned, yet there was a sense of excitement. My dad called from the station near my uncle's home before noon, saying, "I've at least dropped him off at his place. But the dog is gone." It seems the chain and the collar were left behind, but the dog had vanished. When my dad returned, later in the evening, my uncle called saying, "Did you hear about it? I feel sorry for the dog. It feels like it's somehow my fault it's gone. My wife is fine, though. Sorry for bothering you, take care," in a peculiar farewell. That was the last I saw of my uncle. He used to participate in family events diligently, but after that, he never showed up to any ceremonies or funerals. It's been 10 years, and mentioning my uncle's name has become a taboo in our family. My sister and I were talking about it yesterday, and she remembered too. We both found it strange. It might not be a scary story, but thinking about my uncle makes it all too real. I'm sorry. I wonder what that child was. My uncle lives in Yamanashi, but does anyone from around there know anything about this? How did you find this story? The true identity of the child in traditional Japanese clothing must have piqued your curiosity, right? People from Yamanashi might know something about it. Now, do you have any similar mysterious stories from around your area?